Waders form an integral component within the complex and delicate fabric of the natural environment. Evolution has assigned waders a specific role to play in maintaining a natural balance in nature. In their evolution, waders have evolved two fundamentally different lifestyles. There are migratory waders and there are resident waders. Migratory waders systematically migrate unusually long distances from one part of the world to another for breeding purposes, whereas resident waders do not migrate and instead remain within natural boundaries determined by the availability of compatible food. A further distinction must also be made between those resident waders which live in predictable environments, in other words, in environments where their food source is reliable and is consistently renewed by nature, and those resident waders which live in unpredictable environments such as grasslands, savannas, semi-deserts, and episodic water bodies. In these circumstances, resident waders have evolved a largely nomadic lifestyle and an intuitive capability to find food within unpredictable environments. Migratory waders, on the other hand, migrate predictably in terms of timing, place, and routing between their set breeding sites in the northern hemisphere and their non-breeding sites in the southern hemisphere. White-fronted plovers are endemic to sub-Saharan Africa. They breed along the African coastline between Gambia in West Africa and Somalia in East Africa. In southern Africa, they are mainly found on beaches, as well as along the sandy shores of lakes and the lower reaches of certain rivers, particularly where they discharge into the sea. They also occur on the beaches of Madagascar. These busy little birds are appropriately named due to their predominantly white chests, which are lightly tinted with a suffusion of chestnut, and their lower parts are also a dominant white. A diagnostic feature is the conspicuous black line that runs through the eye. White-fronted plovers spend large parts of their day alternatively preening and then scouring the dunes in the drier areas above the intertidal zone in search of prey. Much of their foraging is done around the flooded depressions that occur amongst the sand dunes in the top reaches of the beaches. Here they follow the characteristic plover behavior of run, stop, briefly search, and then go. They also gently vibrate their toes in the soft sand along water margins in order to attract prey living in the substrate. Their main prey items along the Western Cape coastline are small gastropods, bivalves, crabs, and isopods. Male white-fronted plovers are remarkably territorial and restless in their efforts to defend their territories. Kittlitz's plovers are endemic to most of Africa, south of the Sahara, including Madagascar. Though absent from the forested regions of Central Africa, the Sahara Desert, North Africa, and the Horn of Africa. However, they do occur along the banks of the Nile River, extending to the Mediterranean Sea, as well as along the Red Sea coastline. Kittlitz's plovers have a distinctive black mask and band over their foreheads, with a long white eyebrow that extends behind the eye to the nape when breeding. The forehead and throats are white, and their breasts are variably creamy buff to chestnut. These plovers have unusually long legs. A key habitat requirement for Kittlitz's plovers are open spaces where they can forage over relatively large areas, including inland wetland areas, open sea shores, coastal lagoons, and estuaries. Kittlitz's plovers prey largely on insects and their larvae, both aquatic and terrestrial, as well as on crustaceans and mollusks. At the beginning of the breeding season, Kittlitz's plovers generally form into pairs 3 or 4 weeks before occupying a territory which they defend. Each pair then looks for a suitable nesting site within their territory, during which the male makes several scrapes, usually where natural depressions in the ground already exist. To make a scrape, the male leans forward until the chest touches the ground. He then pushes backwards with his feet while circulating in order to create a bowl-like shape, which is then lined with little pebbles, scraps of vegetation, various fragments, and small shells. When the female approaches the nest, the male moves away, and she then occupies the nest, and in due course she hatches her eggs. During these times, the male often pauses at the water's edge and silently seems to survey his environment. 3-banded plovers are endemic to Africa and Madagascar. Their range includes Africa south of the equator, with an extension north of the equator to the central and southern coasts of the Red Sea. These plovers are distinguished by their 3 breast bands, 2 black and 1 white. Distinguishing features are their large red eye rings and their red bills tipped with black. 3-banded plovers are found in a wide range of habitats, with freshwater habitats being generally favoured. These busy little birds with their bobbing heads are often seen foraging along the banks of streams, rivers, and wetlands, temperate estuaries, and coastal lagoons where salinity levels are low. Muddy and grassy margins of ponds, sewerage settling pans, and flays provide rich pickings for these plovers. Sometimes these energetic birds gather in small groups, but little seems to happen for a long time. Three-banded plovers are also found in mangrove swamps along the temperate southern reaches of the mangroves range in the Eastern Cape. Three-banded plovers usually breed in suitable places around pan margins where they can forage easily. Typically, the female initiates the breeding process and solicits copulation. Three-banded plovers are known to be highly aggressive in the defense of their territories, as can be seen in this encounter with a little stint, and yet they make unusual friendships. Chestnut-banded plovers are found in fragmented areas in sub-Saharan Africa as a result of their specialized habitat requirements. These necessitate foraging in hypersaline as well as hyperalkaline pans in arid areas. Their distribution is largely restricted to southern Africa and to some of the soda lakes in the Rift Valley in northern Tanzania and southern Kenya. Chestnut-banded plovers are the smallest and the palest plovers that occur in the region. The male has a neat black marking on the apex of the forehead, and the lores are also black. The male is distinguished by its distinctive chestnut breastband. The female has grey in the place of the markings on the forehead, and the breastband is much lighter in colour. Chestnut-banded plovers normally forage alone, or occasionally in pairs, along the margins and fringes of saline pans. Their normal diet includes insects, small crustacea, and polychaete worms. They also forage on estuarine mud flats and salt marshes. As with most plovers, they vibrate their toes in the mud, lining the pans to induce their subterranean prey to rise to the surface, where they are quickly hunted and consumed by the plover. Most pans where chestnut-banded plovers forage are too saline to support any bottom-dwelling invertebrates, with the possible exception of the larvae of chironomid flies, which rise to the surface and are often blown across the water by prevailing winds to the pan margins where they are foraged by the plovers. Black-winged lapwings are endemic to Africa and occur in three distinct groupings. Firstly, there is a northern population group which occurs in grasslands around 1,300 meters above sea level in eastern Sudan and Ethiopia. Secondly, there is a central population group which occurs in Kenya between 900 and 1,500 meters above sea level. And lastly, there is a southern population group which ranges between sea level and around 1,500 meters above sea level in Mpumalanga, eastern Swaziland, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Eastern Cape. Black-winged lapwings are greyish-brown above, with white below a black breastband. They have a light greyish-white V-shaped patch on the forehead, and they have pinkish legs. Black-winged lapwings are habitat specialists. Their preferences include highland plateaus, grasslands, and grazing pastures. They are usually found in short grasslands where they hunt their prey exclusively by sight. Their diet is very similar to that of crowned lapwings, with tenebrionid beetles, ants, and termites being their favoured prey. In addition to their favoured prey, both black-winged and crowned lapwings supplement their diets with various berries and other food items they commonly find in the veld. Crowned lapwings are found in much of Africa, extending across Somalia and Ethiopia to northern Kenya and the Great Lakes, and from there to Zambia and central Angola, and then down to the Western Cape. These lapwings are relatively large birds, with brown above and white below. They have distinctive black and white banded caps, black-tipped red bills, dark breast bands, and red legs. Crowned lapwings lead a nomadic existence in natural grasslands. As conditions change, however, they move on. The open habitats they choose provide good visibility for detecting prey, and so they tend to avoid, where they can, grassland areas where the grass is generally more than 6 centimeters in height. Crowned and black-winged lapwings have a loose symbiotic relationship. This is stimulated by 3 factors. Firstly, they have similar dietary preferences. Secondly, their readiness to forage in the same area. And lastly, both species hunt the same prey in a common area without incurring a dispute between themselves. This relationship has for a long time been viewed by researchers as an ecological enigma. However, recent research has revealed that their relationship is primarily motivated by their mutual sense of vulnerability to predation. As a consequence, the 2 species tolerate each other. Interestingly, both black-winged and crowned lapwings are collectively aggressive towards other potential competitors for their food. Blacksmith lapwings are endemic to sub-equatorial Africa. Their range extends from Kenya in the northeast through Central Africa and from there down to the Western Cape in the southwest. These birds are absent from the low-lying coastal regions of northern Mozambique and southern Tanzania. Blacksmith lapwings are distinctively patterned in black, white and grey. They have ruby red eyes, a black bill and black legs. These lapwings are normally found close to water in a wide range of habitats, including ephemeral wetlands, swamps, river margins, open coasts, and offshore islands. The foraging of blacksmith lapwings takes various forms. In grasslands, where they have a wide, unbroken view, they hunt at a steady walk, stopping from time to time, however, to check on their security. In denser vegetation, their vigilance increases and their alertness is heightened. Consequently, they hunt less since they are constantly on guard. Where appropriate, blacksmith lapwings employ the typical plover and lapwing hunting technique of trembling their feet on the ground to entice subterranean worms and other invertebrate prey to come up to the surface, where they are quickly pounced upon and consumed by the blacksmith hunter. Although these lapwings forage mainly in terrestrial habitats, they also hunt for food in shallow water. The bulk of their diet is made up of terrestrial and aquatic invertebrates. Blacksmith lapwings forage most intensely in the early morning and late afternoon. Breeding begins in early summer when groups gather together, during which their unusual courtships take place. At first, there is no interaction between members of the group, as they continue to preen themselves and look for food. After a while, however, intriguing interactions begin to happen. Suddenly, presumably a male, puts his head down and bullet-like hurtles at a female, and usually a fascinating chase takes place. This action triggers a series of seemingly random charges and chases, which are interlaced with males picking up pieces of vegetation or pieces of dried dung, which they carry for a short distance and then drop on the ground, or in a fit of frustration tug at a strand of grass, or simply stand around and do nothing. For some time, these interactions continue, and in due course, brief copulation takes place. African wattled lapwings are endemic to sub-Saharan Africa, where they are resident in some areas and partial migrants in others. These lapwings are generally found in savannas and high-lying grasslands. They are distinctive and colourful birds with heavily streaked necks, a white patch on their foreheads, bright yellow facial wattles, black-tipped yellow bills, red lores, and yellow legs. Wattled lapwings favour foraging in damp areas or areas close to standing water. When foraging, these decorative birds concentrate on finding and then focusing on their intended prey, and when ready, they pounce on their prey and quickly consume it. Their prey consists mainly of large insects, especially grasshoppers and dung beetles. They also prey on termites and aquatic invertebrates, and they supplement their feeding with various plant seeds. When breeding, African wattled lapwings are monogamous and territorial. Resident pairs, however, usually remain mated throughout the year.